a student of nature led gardening and a person who knows the power of yards in the Twin Cities. The power of yards. NatureServe recently did a study, and the key findings is that 1 in 5 pollinators face risk. 1 in 5 pollinators face extinction risk. More than a third of our native bee species are at risk. And we can do something about this. Pavement and Kentucky bluegrass are popular, but they offer no forage for struggling pollinators and they send large amounts of water on runoff and to pollute our waters. So, how do we landscape in a way that is for pollinators and water? And that's what we're talking about on today's show. And very pleased to have on today's show to be joined by Megan Resch with Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, so I work at Metro Blooms. We're a nonprofit based in the Twin Cities, and we partner with communities to nurture and support thriving ecosystems, land and water. I am a communications and program manager there. And personally, I've been a resident of Minneapolis for about 8 years now, and I love gardening myself, especially right now. There's so much to see and do.
Oh, it's a beautiful time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know I saw this swallowtail butterfly. I see so much in the yards, a lot of the birds. But I saw the swallowtail butterfly, and then I saw the swallowtail butterfly where there was like only concrete around it, and I felt sorry for the poor butterfly because
Yeah.
there's just the pollinators are really struggling because of the way humans have interacted with the land.
Yeah, and it is amazing though how quickly they find those pockets of habitat though, even like amidst all the concrete.
That's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That they do find those
Yeah.
pockets of habitat, and we can increase those pockets of habitat. That's why this work is so vital, is to
Mhm.
increase those pockets of habitat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we do a lot of that through our education program, which is called Blue Thumb. It's statewide, and we share resources and workshops and grants for just regular Minnesotans to create pollinator habitat, rain gardens, and other sustainable landscaping projects.
So, what is Metro Blooms?
Mhm. Yeah, so as I mentioned, Metro Blooms is a Twin Cities based nonprofit. We center environmental justice a lot in our work, and we co create outdoor spaces that are beneficial to both people and pollinators. And then we have that program called Blue Thumb, like I mentioned. Our history is pretty interesting. We started out in 1979 back. Yeah,
1979.
at that time, it was a garden recognition, like garden awards program, as part of the city of Minneapolis. And then in 2005, we became our own nonprofit and kind of phased that out. And that's when we started the shift towards sustainable landscaping focus. And we partnered then and still do with cities and watershed districts. And at the time, we launched a popular series of rain garden workshops, kind of giving people the skills to create their own project at home, to help collect stormwater runoff, and help with water quality. And then that expanded to like a broader commitment to sustainable yard practices, including support for pollinators. And then over the past decade or so, we've really deepened our commitment to community work, working with people most impacted by environmental equities and creating habitat and green space where they live. And that has been really cool to see over the past few years.
This is such an important issue because there's actually a nature deficit disorder.
Oh, yeah.
So, talk about nature deficit disorder.
Yeah, so there are impacts of not having a lot of access to nature in terms of health, in terms of emotional well being, in terms of mental well being. And access to nature can look a lot different ways. It can be having a tree in your area, and that provides both like shade, cooler temperatures, which is very helpful in the summer, but also just connection to nature, watching the wildlife, having a place where your kids can play. So it's a really broad concept, and I think a lot of us are maybe continuing to feel it more as like cities develop out and there's just less easy places where we can access nature. That being said, one of the things I love about the Twin Cities is that we have so many wonderful parks and trails like close by and further out. But yeah, one of the things that our nonprofit works on is helping people have a deeper relationship with the nature where they live.
And right now, we are collectively, there is an epidemic of anxiety and depression and loneliness. And I think some of this loneliness is actually loneliness from belonging to the earth. And I know that can
Mhm.
sound kind of maybe exoteric or or something else, but but this I know for me personally, it is so grounding, and it just takes me in a different place when I can just be in a green space.
Mhm. Yeah, also just getting to be in a green space together with other people too. Like we do a lot of planting events with community members where we're all planting together and learning together. And for a lot of folks, like whether they're not like a young kid or an older person, they might share that, oh, this is the first time like I'm actually like getting to use a trowel and plant this flower, and there's this joy in them, and that's just so wonderful to see kind of them light up and new connections being made.
Oh, and I've seen that too with kids. It's just, I mean, because it's natural. And we were doing this
Mhm.
for a long time. We were feeling the dirt, and there's actually a lot of evidence that our microbiome needs that connection with the soil.
Yeah, yeah, it's
That's something.
fascinating.
It's something we really, really need. So Metro Blooms has been around since 1979, and one of the things that you guys are very well known for is spreading rain gardens in the
Mhm.
Twin Cities. How many rain gardens have you helped spread?
No, I'm not sure the exact number, but it's definitely in the thousands. We have a few different programs. We have a program called Neighborhood of Rain Gardens where we partner with cities and neighborhoods, and our team, in partnership with the Conservation Corps, will install rain gardens for folks, and then the residents get to pick up plants and plant their own rain garden. So we have a lot made through that. Metro Blooms also has a kind of branch for profit that was started a few years ago called Metro Blooms Design Build, and they work with clients in the Twin Cities area to install pollinator plantings, rain gardens for them. So across the programs, it's a lot.
So there's a lot of different ways that homeowners can utilize these resources. So talk a little bit more about the
Oh yeah.
build, and the for-profit arm of that, because there's people who are listening to the show that might want someone just to show up and do it for me.
Mhm. Yeah, so how Metro Bloom's Design Build works, if you're a resident, is the first step is to sign up for a consultation. We have a team of expert landscape designers, and they'll come out to your property and just walk your space with you and brainstorm like what's going on, what are your dreams, like what are you struggling with. And some people just do the consultation to help guide them on like a DIY project or help them work through like how can I get started with my own rain garden. And then some people will go further and get a design of a rain garden or a planting done with our team. And then they offer installation too. So you can kind of go from start to finish.
And there is some grant money. Tell
Mhm.
us about how that grant program works if somebody wants to explore that. And
Yeah, so the grant program, so our Blue Thumb education program, we, in partnership with the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, offer a program that's called Lawns to Legumes. Um,
lawns to legumes. So,
yes,
and
Lawns to
legumes are like
Legumes.
beans, but do you actually grow like peas in these
No,
yet?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a the state of funders who started it, like the alliteration, I think, but it's a program that funds native planting. So many Minnesota native perennials, native plants are legumes, which means
Oh.
that they fix nitrogen in the soil, so they convert nitrogen into the nutrient form that can be taken up by other plants.
I
Um,
just learned something. I'm kind of
yeah,
surprised because I think of legumes and I think of beans and
right.
lentils, but native plants that fix the nitrogen in the
Mhm.
soil are also legumes.
Yes, many are, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that program was launched in 2019, and since then we've been offering small pollinator habitat reimbursement-based grants. So each year there's a application period. You apply, and if you get awarded, you can be reimbursed. Right now, it's up to $400 for the costs associated with putting native plants in your outdoor space, whether that's your front yard, backyard, even doing a container planting in your patio. And
Yeah. So what's
yeah.
the deadline around this? Because so you can get a
Mhm,
grant for $400 for
mhm.
free earth or pollinator and water friendly plants.
Yeah, so in terms of right now, the next application will be for the spring 2027 grant. That application will open later this summer, but if you go on our bluethumb.org website, you can sign up to be notified when that opens. And then, in addition to the grant itself, we also offer a lot of just education, coaching, and resources around pollinator habitat. And we are doing a program right now called Habitat at Home, Lawns to Legumes Habitat at Home, where you can sign up and get monthly guidance to do your own project this summer or fall. So that's something you could do in the meantime before the grant.
And so the Habitat for Home program is completely free.
Yep, it's completely free.
And how do people learn about it and what's involved
Mhm.
in that?
Yeah, so you can go on our Blue Thumb website, which is bluethumb.org. All you have to do is just fill out the sign up form with your name and your email. And then how it works is we'll send out kind of a big monthly email that will have, like, all right, here's what you should be focusing on in June. Like, you're going to start preparing your planting area, and here's resources to do that. We have monthly webinars going on with our different partners. We have one with Shoreview Natives next week. And in July, we have more coming up focused on habitat for birds and pollinator identification. So lots of fun stuff.
Habitat for
Yeah.
Birds. We're going to need to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Habitat for Birds. Service berries are like the most popular bird.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so fun to build these habitat for birds and habitat for pollinators because um, they're suffering right now, and we can do something about that suffering and our own suffering at the same time. You're listening to Food Freedom Radio. We're talking about Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb with Megan Reich. Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Headland, a student of nature-led gardening and a person who knows the power of our yards in the Twin Cities. One study says that 1 in 5 pollinators face extinction rates. More than 33% of native bees species are at risk. We know that pavement and Kentucky bluegrass are very popular, but they don't offer forage for these struggling pollinators, and they cause a bunch of runoff, which ends up polluting our water. And also, birds are also struggling to find food. So how do we in our yards create spaces, living spaces for this beautiful, wonderful world? And with me right now is Megan Reich with Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb. And when we want to break, we're talking about bird friendly landscaping. So do you have tips for that?
Yeah, so the thing is, it's all connected. So when you put native plants in your yard, you're supporting insects, you're supporting pollinators, and insects are food for our birds. Native plants also provide habitat for birds, and as you mentioned, forage as well with the seeds. And so when you're putting in a native plant, you're making like a ripple effect, like across the ecosystem in terms of who you're supporting throughout the food web. And trees and shrubs are also really good for birds in terms of the berries too. You mentioned service berries, and that's a great pollinator and bird friendly option. I have a autumn brilliance service berry raspberry in my own yard. It's been producing a lot of fruit this year, and so I've been enjoying the fruit as well as the
You have?
animals. Yeah,
So how
mhm.
do you no, I'm not I don't try to keep them away. Yeah, because and then choke cherries are wonderful
Mhm, yeah, they're
for
great too.
birds. There's so many wonderful things for birds. Um, and let's talk too about water right now.
Mhm.
So how does the landscaping impact the water?
Yeah, so we all live in what's called a watershed. So it's like an area of the land where all the water drains to one particular water body. Where I live, that's the Mississippi River. And water, when it's traveling across the lands, its travel is impacted by what's there. So if it's all concrete, it's going to just rush off really fast, carry all the various pollutants from the city, from our residential areas into the water bodies, which causes water pollution, which affects life, which affects water quality. And as we know, water is life, is at the foundation of health for humans and our ecosystems. So, part of sustainable landscaping is about slowing down the flow of that water and also helping collect and absorb some of those pollutants so that that runoff isn't carrying those pollutants into our water bodies. So native plants, plants that are native to Minnesota area, they have much more complex root systems than your typical turf grass. Turf grass roots are very shallow. They're about as deep as the length of the above ground grass itself. But for native plants, you can go down many feet, like 12 feet even. And what that's doing is that, again, that's slowing the flow and absorbing that runoff and helping water quality.
Right, and deep roots are also helping with climate change
Oh
because
yeah.
if you have deeper roots, it's a carbon sink.
That's true. Yeah, carbon sequestration is also another benefit of adding more native plants to your landscape.
And I wanted to say one other thing about bird landscaping because I think sometimes people are too eager to clean their yards and gotta have it
Um,
cleaned up. And so leaving the yard in the fall
mhm.
messy until there's new food for the birds to eat. Oh, that's something we've done for decades. I assume is that something you guys also
Yeah,
recommend?
yeah, that is something. There's a phrase called "leave the leaves" that's been popular the past few years. So essentially, by minimizing that cleanup of like um, yes, you can rake your leaves from your street and your sidewalks, of course, but if you can like keep your leaves in your garden beds and other areas where you have planting, that's creating really helpful overwintering habitat for
Mhm.
our insects. And then also thinking about keeping the standing stems of your native perennials up. A lot of people will cut those back really far in the fall. But that's also taking away important habitat. Many of our native bees are stem nesting bees, so they actually lay their eggs and overwinter in the hollow stems of plants, including native plants. So by keeping those up in the winter, you're helping with overwintering habitat. You're also keeping some seed forage out there for birds in the winter. And then in the spring, like once things are really warmed up in May and you're getting that new growth again, you can cut those back and still leave a foot or so that you're um, still keeping some of that remaining habitat for insects coming out. But
So
that's really important.
we've done that for a long time now, and I absolutely love to see the birds, especially in January after those really cold nights, and all of a sudden you'll see these birds just so happy to find this, what some people might say, as messy or something, but it's natural. So, I mean, letting
Mhm.
that be is
Yeah, and if I can just speak to a moment on that messy piece, that can be a common criticism of native plantings in general. But what a lot of people don't realize is that you can still have a native planting and create what we like to call cues for care that help demonstrate your intention behind the planting. So things like adding edging, adding a sign, and even just telling neighbors in your area like even adding decorations and making it a really fun thing and like kind of raising awareness of that. And then there's also ways to add native plants to your landscape that are maybe aren't those like super tall like native sunflowers, but are some shorter native species that are still providing benefits but have a bit more of that like manicured, if you will, look. So there's lots of different aesthetics that you can play with, even within the realm of
Well,
native
and everyone's
plants.
yard is different, and how to. I mean, and everyone's needs are different. So, I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Yeah.
not a one size fits all life. It's not a one size fits all yard. But there is a wonderful tour coming up where people
Yeah.
can see and just kind of experiment or see what other people are doing. So, let's talk about the Lawns to Legumes tour on July 18th.
Yes, so Saturday, July 18 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is our Lawns to Legumes Garden Tour Day. And it's a chance to see real pollinator gardens created by everyday Minnesotans. It's a statewide event, it's free, it's self guided. Residents with gardens have signed up on our tour map, and you can choose your own adventure and visit gardens of people near you and kind of create your own route to take. It's an opportunity to like meet folks too, meet your neighbors who are doing more with native plantings and simply see what's possible. People have gardens at like different stages, different types, like rain gardens, bee lawns, more like prairie meadows. So it's just an opportunity to see what's out there.
And I when I went last year, it was this is coming to my mind, which might seem crazy, but it was almost like a garage sale. And like sometimes
Mm,
around garage sales, wonderful conversations arise, right?
yeah.
They're just kind of fun. But people are outside their yards and they're eager to share, and
Mhm.
people can just see different options. We're going to need to take a break soon, but we're going to talk more about this in the next segment. But if somebody has a rain garden in their current property, can they still sign up
Yep.
to be on the tour? And how do they do that?
Yeah, so again, bluethumb.org, and we have a garden tour day page in the Lawns to Legumes section, and you can enter your information and sign up as a garden tour host, and we'll give you information from there.
And, how many gardens do you have participating this year?
Last year we had about 92, and I think we're over 50 at this point, so we're starting to get up there.
Over 50. Okay. So we're talking all about pollinator, water friendly, and bird friendly yardscapes. With me is Megan Reich with Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb. And we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Hop right back in. Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Hedlund, a student of nature-led gardening and someone that knows water is life. And on today's show, we're talking with Megan Reich with Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb, all about how to have our yards be a refuge for pollinators and birds and insects, the natural world, and ourselves. And coming up on July 18th is this awesome event. So tell us a little bit about this event coming up.
Yeah, so Lawns to Legumes Garden Tour Day is a free self-guided tour where you can go visit pollinator gardens, native plantings created by residents across the state, and also meet your neighbors and see what's possible.
See what's possible. I love that expression. Now how do I know, there's a map on your website?
Yes.
So how does that where do I find that map?
Yeah, so bluethumb.org, and then under the Lawns to Legumes section, you'll see the Garden Tour Day page. And in that page is a big map of Minnesota. You can zoom in and go click into each tour stop, and you'll see a little preview. People have shared a bit about their garden and any details about navigation. And then there's also a big list below that map. So, and it's organized by zip code. So you can kind of plan out, whether you just want to visit 3 or if you want to go for 10 in one day, it's up to you. But yeah.
And it's so you're Metro Blooms and bluethumb.org. You're both.
Yeah, so Metro Blooms is the umbrella nonprofit, and then Blue Thumb is our education program, which has a separate website just because we have so many different resources on
Well,
there.
and that is the one thing, looking at your website, there is a lot there. And
Mhm.
tell us about all the resources available, and which you can go to either one because there's
Yeah.
resources on both of them.
Yeah, and they're linked to each other. So on the Blue Thumb website, we have a planting for pollinators page, and if you go in there, you'll see different project types like rain gardens, tree plantings, bee lawns, and within each page, there's really detailed like planning, installation, maintenance guidance. So it's nice to just read through and think like, like what type of project might be right for me in terms of what I want to take on, what I want for my yard.
Mhm.
And then we also have some other cool resources. We have a plant finder tool. So you can go in there and just plug in, like, oh, I have a sunny yard. I want things that are like 3 feet or shorter. I want yellow and purple flowers. And then it'll produce a customized list with recommended native plants. It's not comprehensive, so it doesn't have every single native plant in the state, but it contains about 300 that are more commonly available in our native plant retailers across the state.
Well, and yeah, I was playing with your plant finder, and again, that's open to everyone. It's all totally free. But the like, if you have a shady area that gets water or a shady area with drought,
Yeah.
you can put those criterias in, and it is kind of fun. You can put down if you have a particular color of flower you want.
Yeah, there's so many different filters there. You can even say like, I want plants that deer and rabbits don't chew on as much too, which is another like big challenge that people work with. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just fun to play with.
So, and that's so it's bluethumb.org, and that's the plant finder under that website. And let's talk more about this garden tour day. So on the bluethumb.org, there's a map, and you can put your zip code in, and it will show you this, or you can just look at the area and
Yep.
we'll show you different. You don't have to RSVP.
Nope. Yeah. You just decide which houses you want to go visit, and then on garden tour day during the 9 a.m. 12 p.m. window, that's when the tour host will be outside welcoming people to their space.
And yeah, so the tour host is outside welcoming people and explaining. And I mean, I do remember there's just beautiful conversations people are getting
Yeah.
because we like to talk about our plants. We like to
Yeah.
talk
Oh
about our plants
yes.
almost as much as we like to talk about our dogs and our kids, right? I mean, or it depends on the person. Some people,
Yes, you might find that once you get into native plants, you'll get hooked. And it's just so fun because there's so many different plants. They're all beautiful in terms of their forms. And then you get into like, oh, well, who's visiting the plants? And then you learn about all the different bees and insects. And then you'll find yourself just hanging out outside for several hours, taking pictures of bugs. It's great.
me too. Like, and I think I'm remembering her name right. Heather Holm has a beautiful
Oh,
book
yeah.
on bees, and I can remember just being out with this book on bees and just seeing so many different types of bees, and I'm like, this is like bird watching, but bee watching, and
Yeah.
it is really enlivening.
Yeah, Minnesota has over 500 species of native bees. I think people don't realize it's not just kind of like, oh, there's a honeybee, there's a bumblebee. No, like within that, we have like bumblebees, we have stem nesting bees, we have ground nesting bees, we have sweat bees, and many different looking bees. There's bees that are green. There are bees that are very big and fuzzy that have different patterning, and they all have different relationships with plants too. Some bees are what we call generalist species, so they'll forage from all sorts of flowers, and then some are specialists, so they will only get pollen and nectar from certain flowers that have co-evolved together with them based on their shape. So that's really cool to learn about too.
And so, if someone has a rain garden, or they can still be part of this garden tour. And tell me again the steps they might want to
Yeah.
take.
Yeah, you can have a rain garden, you can have like a small pocket planting or a container garden, really any type of landscaping where you've used native plants. So you go on that Garden Tour Day page, like we mentioned, and you scroll down, and there's a host sign up page. You fill that out, and then we'll follow up with helpful information so you can be ready to host on tour day.
And, yeah, and so what have the people reported, who have been on this tour before? Both the people visiting or the
Mhm.
people who've decided to host? What stories have you heard?
Yeah, well, from the hosts, I think the main feedback is just they really enjoy talking to everybody who comes and visits. It, like you said, like it's just really fun to connect on a common topic with somebody who you might not otherwise ever talk about or talk with. And then from like people who attend, just being able to see all the different types of things that you can do with native plants at different scales and different like sized yards, also at different stages too. Another thing about native plants is that they do take longer to establish and grow in than your typical annuals. Like the first year they'll grow a little bit, the second year they'll start to grow more, and then by the third year they'll really be blooming. So it's a long term change, but that makes it more rewarding in a way to be with it over time. And it's kind of fun to see the progression of different projects as well.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that in my yard, I've seen natives pop up. It's like we even had some Minnesota orchids are popping
Oh,
up in the
wow.
yard around the oak trees, and it's magical.
It is. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you'll see things that you didn't plant when you start adding more natives because they'll spread and you're just creating a welcoming space.
And so, okay, so why do we want to plant for pollinators?
Yeah.
Why do we want to do that?
Yeah, great question. So pollinators, as we got to a little bit in the when we were talking about birds, they're really like an essential part of the food web. And then they're also responsible for helping plants reproduce because they're pollinating flowers, you know, based on their name. And they also even are important for pollinating crops we rely on for food too. And so that being said, by helping out pollinators, we're also like helping our ecosystems in terms of the plant communities in our area, whether in our neighborhood or more broadly. And that's really important because right now we're facing habitat loss. Just a lot of different species, native species, are struggling. So by planting one plant, you're making an impact on many different levels.
Right, and we're not separate from that ecosystem loss. We are part of it, and a lot of people are super sensitive
Mhm,
and are experiencing almost like an eco depression.
mhm.
And then others are totally oblivious but I think on some integral level, we are all experiencing so much chaos. And one of the ways to lower that temperature is to
Mm,
plant and be with birds and pollinators
mhm.
and this living world, this
Yeah.
verdant world.
Yeah, just speaking for myself personally, being able to go outside and spend an hour just like weeding and watering, it is really soothing in terms of just being with other life. And it helps me become more grounded and be like, all right, you know, everything is that's going on is still going on. But for this hour, I can just be with the plants and you can almost feel their energy and just be supported by it.
Yeah, yeah, I think you can. And so the benefits of native plants are manyfold. We've already talked about some of those long roots. They retain and infiltrate water. So I mean, that's again the way the world was not too long ago. This is the way our place was. It had all these long, deep roots, and we have sort of come in with a different type of relationship and worldview to the land and have caused a lot of damage.
Mhm.
And we do have the opportunity to reclaim that land.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that even if you're adding habitat, adding native plants to a really small area, that is still going to make an impact. Like when you think about pollinators, bees are foraging from patch to patch, and when there's more like a network basically of habitat patches. You're creating a throughway for them. So even a small area, yeah, don't be concerned discouraged if it seems overwhelming or if you don't have a lot of space. A lot of people will like start with just like a few feet by a few feet and then each year add on to that.
And can people do things even on the patios? Does that help? Some things on the patios that are really good for those hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, so our nonprofit has been exploring like how can we do container plantings? Are they effective? And you can actually plant native perennials in containers. We have some guidance, like tips, so you can do that successfully. But indeed, even just having a small patio planting, that's more habitat right there.
Okay, so the garden tour is Saturday, July 18th from 9 o'clock to noon. No reservations. Show up. And if you, to get the map, you go on your website. And if you have a home and want to invite people over to see your yard, you can also sign up for it there. Is there anything else about the lawn to legumes garden tour that people should know?
Um, I would say just enjoy, and if this sparks inspiration and curiosity for you, go ahead and sign up for Launcelot Games Habitat at Home, also on our website, because that's just a cool entry point. Um, Even if you maybe don't do a project this fall, it's a great way to get your feet wet and see, like, okay, here's how I can actually do this, and maybe it's more doable than I thought it would be. So, yeah.
And the whole idea of neighbors and to neighbors doing this, and then that also builds up an extra layer of resilience because if one neighbor has a rain garden, the next one has this bee pollinator, it opens up this abundant world
Yeah.
for the pollinators, which opens up it for us as well. So we're talking about the garden tour on Saturday, July 18th with Blue Thumb and bluethumb.org. We'll take a break and be right back. Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Hedlund, a student of nature-led gardening, a person who knows water is life, and very pleased to be joined right now with Megan Reich with Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb. And one of the things that we wanted to talk a little bit about is that actually native plantings can be less work.
Hmm.
Really? I mean, I thought it was really supposed to be very hard to do these rain gardens and native plants, but it can be less work. And I actually find that too. But
Right. Yeah. So it does take planning at the beginning, of course, and initially putting the plants in the ground. But over time, in the long run, native plants aren't going to need the same amount of like water and fertilizer as a turf grass lawn or like an annual planting situation. And that's partially because native plants are adapted to thrive in our Minnesota climate, so they are do really well in our hot and dry summers. They're adapted to withstand drought periods. And then and of course their life cycles are built so they make it through the winters. So that being said, when you're looking at kind of the timeline of a project, the first couple of years are going to still require time on your part, because those native plants are establishing and growing in their roots. So you want to, water them once a week when it's not raining, and you want to keep on top of weeding. But after a couple years, especially year three, that's when they really kind of hold a life of their own. And you'll see that in terms of just like looking at somebody with a nice established garden, and how like if they selected plants that bloom spring through fall, there's always something blooming, which is another beautiful thing. Um, so they are more native plantings are more sustainable in the sense that you don't need the same amount of like input, especially chemical input, right?
Well, and I actually started calling my yard retirement ready, but we've been fortunate that we got these mature trees, and we still have a little bit of ground cover
Mhm.
and we basically do very little raking. But compared to what I see other people doing in terms of mowing and fertilizing
Yeah,
and raking and
yeah.
moving their leaves and having the compost bin come to take away their leaves, having those mature trees, especially like the service bush berries and the blueberries and the goji berries and the peach trees and the plum trees. I mean, happy birds, happy humans,
Mhm.
happy life, happy soil. And it's so fun. But I also wanted to make sure we talk about your Habitat at Home program, which I've signed up for. So,
Yeah.
tell us how that works.
Yeah, so Monster Legumes Habitat at Home is a guided experience for either getting started creating a pollinator habitat, or if you're wanting to expand your garden or just get some more guidance on how can you better maintain it. We have monthly themes each month that kind of guide through the process of starting or expanding your garden. Now through November, you can sign up at any time. There's not like a deadline. We have webinars from different experts, and then we also will have volunteer coaches that we can match you with based on coach availability. If you're wanting like a little more guidance, you're wanting to have a conversation with somebody,
And this is all free.
it's all free. Yeah, thank
Wow.
you to the state of
I was gonna
Minnesota
say, what
and the
is your
Board of
funding?
yeah. So, in terms of like the history of Lawns to Legumes, it was launched through a grant with the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Funds through the LCCMR grant.
Or lottery money?
Yes,
Well,
the
this is a
lottery
great use of
money.
lottery money.
Um,
Wonderful use of lottery money.
then for the past couple of years, it's just been funded by the state general fund. That being said, we do have less funding now due to different state budget limitations. So we aren't able to award many grants, but we're hoping to get more funding next year. So if you do follow Blue Thumb, we'll have some information on how like you can contact your legislators and encourage them to ask for more funding. So that'll be kind of into next
And people
year.
can also
Yeah.
donate to you.
Yes, as a nonprofit, you can donate to Metro Blooms if you go to metroblooms.org and our donate page, and that will support all of our different programming to help bring in more rain gardens, more habitat, more connection to nature for people in the Twin Cities area, especially those environmental justice communities.
And I want to go back to the big picture on why this is so vital because when you have rain and runoff, and we know with the climate crisis, our rain things are the earth is suffering. And so, and I could go back to this butterfly I saw and just going through the concrete, and I could just see it's like confused. It's like, where's the garden? This was all supposed to be a garden. I don't see it here. So, within that thing, what we can do is sort of build this garden up in our own backyards, and it's not that hard to do, right? And that's why it's wonderful to have all these free resources.
Yeah.
So let's talk again about how people access those free resources. And
Yeah, so the starting point is our Blue Thumb education program, bluethumb.org. We have a lot of step by step guidance on there. We also have a resources page with garden design templates. If you're just wanting to be like, all right, like I just want to have like a template I can go off of for this type of yard, and lots of downloadables. We have a workshop program. So we have workshops each spring and fall in the Twin Cities area. And then we have an online Resilient Yards learning series. So you can get all that content online for free at any time through our website.
that's wonderful. And this Habitat at Home also has a place where people can be talking to each other. So
Yeah.
so that's a great thing. So you sign up and is and you can just share neighbor to neighbor.
Yeah, so it's a online forum. We call it the Hive,
The
and
Hive.
you can go in there and connect with other participants. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way. So the garden tour day is Saturday, July 18th from 9 to noon.
Mhm.
And there's also a fall native plant sale on Saturday the 19th.
Yeah.
And you also have expanded to where you're offering a landscaping service.
Mhm.
So you have that going. Um, Tell us, and you've been in this is a nonprofit that's been going since 1979. What else should people know about you? And say your website again.
Yeah, so metroblooms.org and bluethumb.org, those are our two websites. Thanks for mentioning the fall native plant sale. You can go on Blue Thumb for more info. That's on September 19 in Golden Valley. And I would say just get connected. We have our social media platforms, we have an email newsletter too. If you just want to kind of, there, we always have events going on, especially right now in the growing season. So there's all sorts of ways to tap in, whether you're curious or you're a long time gardener or just getting into native plants.
And this growing movement for pollinators, um,
Mhm.
it's like we liberate the pollinators, we liberate ourselves. Does that seem?
In a way, yeah. We like to say, especially with lawns to legumes, that we're growing a movement, we're growing a community. And we see that with Garden Tour Day and the connections that are being formed. And we see that, like, a lot of times what happens is one person on a block will start a native planting project, and then their neighbors will get curious. And then there'll be some neighbor to neighbor sharing, and that spreads. And I've been seeing that a lot in the neighborhoods that I live in South Minneapolis, and it's just so inspiring
Oh,
to
it is
see it.
beautiful to be
Yeah.
driving through Minneapolis right now and just seeing that this landscaping alignment with the
Yeah.
natural world. Megan Wright, Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb, I thank you so much for your time. And I thank you for listening to Food Freedom Radio.
Thanks for having me.